Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Amy, and I am the founder and a clinician at Revive Center for Wellness, and I'm joined today by two of my colleagues, Marianne and Catherine. And we are thrilled to have you as we explore ways to feel more empowered and more in control during this time of uncertainty. So that you showed up today and that you're here listening is so meaningful, and we are so grateful to have you. So I am going to share my screen. Just give me a minute and we'll get right into it. And as we go through our presentation, one thing that is important for us to have you know is that this is really meant to be something that you can engage with, that you can interact with. And so there will be opportunities for you to answer questions or reflect. And I really, really encourage you to take the time to do that. Even if you're not with us live, if you're watching a recording, when you hear a question, really think and even answer out loud. It might sound a little silly, it might feel a little uncomfortable, but that just means you are growing from this. So give yourself that opportunity to do that. So before we get into what we're talking about today, I think it's important for you to know who we are at Revive. And at our core, we are a group of people who are really focused on supporting individuals through both mind and body. And we do that in a number of different ways that we feel target overall wellness, that include therapy, nutrition counseling, yoga, meditation, and so on. And it really is based in our philosophy that we really truly do want you to find your best self, be your best self, and to really live up to your potential. And that's why we're really excited to offer this today, along with other workshops, and that you're here today, because that means that you're investing in that, in empowering yourself to live up to your full potential. And again, we're so grateful to have you here. So I'm going to turn it over to Marianne.
Hi, everyone. How are you? So this is we're going to start off with the point of reflection that in that participation that Amy was talking about in the beginning. So if you have a piece of paper by you and a pen, or you just want to kind of take some mental notes while we go through these questions and really thinking about how you would answer these and checking in with yourself. Sometimes we're so busy and, we have so much going on, or are kind of so involved in this that we forget to check in with ourselves. So really take the time to do this right now and thinking about, how is it going for you? How really are you doing during this? And then, what is working well? What maybe isn't either so bad about this time, or what do you think you actually are mastering as well as you can during this time? And then what's been really challenging? There's a ton of challenges that come with change and uncertain times and new things in general. So to have this at such a grand scale, we're finding things that are things about ourselves or our everyday lives that we haven't experienced before. So what's been challenging about that? And then so many of you have shifted to working from home, and how has that changed the way you've managed your work habits? It's definitely different being in the same physical space that you eat and sleep and take care of yourself and your family with every day. So how are you managing that, and how does that affect your work ethic and efforts? And then what's the communication been like with your upper management and your leadership, or professors or school administrators? How has this affected your communication and collaboration with them? And how does that affect you in your daily life? And then lastly, thinking about what supports you do have through all of this. That could be family, that could be friends, that is also yourself, a pet, the comforts that you have around you. What makes you feel good? What makes you, what is your who and what are your cheerleaders during this time? So I know we wanted to check in a little bit with each other just to kind of give you you know, our process, how we go through these questions. I know for myself, you know, how is it going definitely can change, not only from day to day, but sometimes from moment to moment. And different days or different things that I do with my time help me better than others, you know. I know the days that I move more, where I get out of this office or this room and I like force myself to take a walk or to do a workout or just even to like do a lot of tasks around the house, or sometimes better than days where I'm not able to do that as much. Sometimes challenges have been one, you know, dealing with the uncertainty of and the stress of all of this and my worries, but also yeah, that work life balance and, you know, figuring out when to turn off. And I really had to make some shifts in my working from home by, you know, I like the structure of an office and I like to structure my day. And I've had to kind of really push myself to do that for myself more than others and get done what I need to get done. Um, and I'm constantly in communication with these two and our other colleagues. And that's been really helpful to get some feedback from them and some moral support sometimes, or to vent or to kind of figure out, you know, how we manage new challenges that come up in our work life with this, because this is definitely something that we're all experiencing for the first time too, and figuring out how to navigate things that we wouldn't have thought of before. And then supports that I have, you know, remembering who I can lean on and who I can talk to and what I need to do for myself to kind of get me through the day or get me through those days that are a little bit harder than others.
Yeah, I mean, I relate so much to so much of what you were saying. I think it felt at times a little bit like a roller coaster, but I am like leaning into how much I am really learning from this, learning about myself and learning about what's been important to me and learning about what does help me feel like joyful and grateful. And you know, the weather certainly has a big impact on that. We have a really sunny day here, which is really nice, but the rainier days are hard. So I like in those on those days I try to think about what I can incorporate into my day to bring some like levity and light on a day that might be a little bit gloomy. I definitely have had to shift some of my schedule around and my work habits around to have more of a separation. I'm working from home, like with other people in my home. So that's caused definitely a shift in how I think about navigating all of this. It's caused me to be a lot more vulnerable, to ask for help, to be adaptable and flexible is quite frankly exhausting at times, but a lot of really exciting things have come from it, like being able to do something like this. So as I said, I'm learning a lot through this, and I'm really, really so grateful to have the support of not only this community here, but it feels right now like literally we're all kind of experiencing this together. Certainly not all the same, but it is comforting in a way to know like nobody knows what they're doing, and we're all figuring it out together. So I think that's given me a lot of peace and comfort in those moments of feeling overwhelmed.
I definitely have to agree with both of you as far as the ups and downs and figuring this out along the way. I definitely think that the one question, what's working well, has stuck out to me. I think that when things are on that downward part of the roller coaster, asking myself, you know, what's not working here? How can I, you know, how can I get back up? How can this change so it can work out? Because there's so much of this that is out of our control, that is not manageable. So how much of it can be, and what can I change to make it easier on myself, on people around me, and like you're saying, Amy, you know, working around the other people working from home is definitely interesting, and figuring that out and knowing that, you know, we're not the only ones figuring this out, that this is very much an effort where we're all together, even though we're so apart.
Totally. Okay. So this point of the presentation is kind of something that we would love for you to just use this exercise and kind of keep this vision that you create in mind as we go throughout the presentation and the webinar. So thinking about, what do you want to feel like you've accomplished or taken from or look like when this is all over, when quarantine and social distancing is over and we start to get back to, when whatever that new normal is going to look like. How can you come out of this showing up as the best and most focused version of yourself, and taking that, it doesn't, day by day or week by week, what is something you can think about this week that you could get done that would make you feel really, really proud and really good about, and really thinking, when we picture ourselves in the future, what we want things to look like, or I wish I could just feel a little bit more productive, or I wish I could feel more calmer. I wish I could just be like a little bit more accepting or compassionate of myself in this situation and be there for myself and others. What does that look like? And maybe it sounds silly, but really picturing like, what would your posture be like? What would you be wearing? Who would you be surrounding yourself with? What does that goal look like for you, as you kind of envision yourself moving through that goal or embodying that goal of who you want to be or what you want to say you've accomplished or come out on the other side of all of this being, just paying a lot of attention and painting a picture for yourself. If you could look back to a time in your life where you look kind of fondly on, or you embodied what it is you would like to embody, what did that version of you look like, and how did they act? How did they behave? How did they feel? And can you picture yourself doing that in the future? Take what you remember and put that toward what this goal is going to look like for you, and take a couple of moments to just really picture what you would be doing, and what that future vision, if you were to paint a picture of it or take a photograph of it, what would be there with you, and how would that look for you?
I love that.
So, we're recognizing that the things that we would like to be going on right now are things that are maybe our old versions of success, or what we picture as success, whether it's from working from home or just getting through the day to day or mastering your day. Obviously with new times comes barriers or things that we notice are getting in the way of that. And I think this is something that the three of us can definitely talk about. Again, we would love for you, to take the time, whether it's to pause this and just kind of jot down some ideas, and really reflect on this. But these are the barriers that we have noticed or come up with, the themes that have come up that get in the way of that success, like figuring out your time management when you are in the same place all day, and it can be so easy to prioritize one thing over the other or neglect the things that you really want to be doing or should be doing. That going into also procrastination, and pushing things off and feeling like it's really easy to push things off, especially when you're just not feeling up to it, or you're feeling overwhelmed, or it's just easier to do that. And then obviously our environment and what's around us and the internal and external stressors that we are dealing with in our home. So I had mentioned before for myself, like having a whole day where now I have to kind of structure, as opposed to like knowing that at this time I get in my car and I go to the office, and at this time I leave. That is something that I've really had to work on, and creating a schedule for myself doesn't work every day, but I do it as much as I can. Some days better than others, for sure. And definitely I am a procrastinator. I have always been a procrastinator. I have my to-do list. It's so much easier to be like, oh, this is like the nice, easy thing to do, and I will do this now. And then I'll get distracted and I'll just go throw in a load of laundry. And then maybe I'll just watch this show for 5 minutes that I really enjoy. And the next thing you know, your day's really gotten away from you. And then at the end of the day, I'm feeling badly, or maybe being a little bit too hard on myself that I didn't get the things done that I really need to get done. And then they're weighing on my mind. I have to get done the next day. So there's so much more distraction around when you're working from home, and so much more to do. You're managing so many different hats at once. So, and that goes into the environment, whether you have kids at home or other people in your family at home, or no one at home. And that's hard in and of itself. Each of those things comes with different stressors, and it's just so much more easy to get distracted and have to kind of manage a million things at one time. So those are definitely barriers, as opposed to just being in your office, doing what you need to get done. You're there for a purpose. And then you go home and you start doing what you need to be doing at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the things that I hadn't really realized was so meaningful to me was like having that punctuated like end of the day where I get in my car and drive home from the office. Like it gave me a sense of like, okay, that part of my life, that part of my day is over, and now I can step into my like other life or my other role, and that doesn't really exist as clearly here. And so it's kind of been a little bit of like, I guess, a challenge to kind of create like an actual separation between my work day and my home life, because they all kind of exist in the same space right now. And I think one thing that I've been hearing from some of the people that I've been speaking to as well are like, because we are in our homes, and because again, work and home exist in the same place, that it has created this maybe pressure or this perceived expectation that because we can work from, when we wake up until when we go to bed, like that we should work during those times. And I think that pressure becomes more and more immense because of the way like the unemployment rates are skyrocketing. And so keeping our job feels much, much more important and meaningful than ever before. And so I've heard people talk about kind of this need that they feel to like really put in extra time, extra energy, and really increase their perceived value at work. And what's happening as a result is, people are really struggling under that amount of pressure. When we work that hard, that long, it really impacts our ability to really focus and be as productive. And so more things are like slipping through the cracks. And so what their intention is actually being undermined by their action, that they're wanting to be more valuable, and they're ending up making more mistakes. And so that creates more and more stress. So it becomes this kind of vicious cycle that people are experiencing. And I think just that idea that time kind of feels like endless right now in some ways, which I'll speak to in just a few moments, but that certainly felt like a barrier across all of those areas: environment, procrastination, time management, boundaries.
Yeah. And I imagine that outside of, in other areas of work, that people are getting this pressure from above too, and they're not, so it's harder to create those boundaries and that feeling like, even if, they set up some kind of home office at home, that leaving that area of their place or that room is so hard to do, because maybe an email pops up on their phone or a text and they're right back into it. So it's like creating some kind of boundary that works is really difficult when it's coming from above. And then imagine probably coming from above, it's coming from above from them. So it's like, it's difficult to have that conversation as far as like, I need that space, I need my time.
Yeah. I also like have noticed for myself and talked about with clients, talked about with friends, family, you know, like leave it to us to kind of also then put some like expectations on what quarantine and social distancing is supposed to look like. You know, like you see all these things or you hear about like, look at all of these like perfect meals I'm making, or look at, I'm going to do this 21-day challenge and get really healthy, or I'm going to organize every closet in my house and it's going to be pristine. And you know, like
It's
people
like successes are barriers to your own success.
yeah, absolutely. And it's like, you know, what I've been saying is this isn't the same as like, hey, I am taking a week of work off for me to kind of focus on things outside of work and do what I need to do for myself and spend that time how I would like to. This is forced staying home quarantine where your home is like every area of your life and there is no right way or thing you're supposed to be doing to be productive just because you're home. Like we're home, we're working, we're taking care of ourselves, taking care of our families, checking in with people, worrying about things, keeping up our jobs, keeping up our health as much as we can, you know, worrying about protecting ourselves. There's a lot going on to not have to then expect to be mastering all of these areas. You know, working from home doesn't mean like this is a vacation at home. It's not the same thing right now. So you do really have to remember that just because you're home, like there still needs to be like Amy said, boundaries. There needs to be there needs to be something where you say, no, this is time for myself, or you know what, I'm tired today and I need to just like sit down, or I need to ask so and so for help, or I need to be present with my family, or I need to like take a 5-minute shower where I'm not watching the news or hearing what I need to be doing and no one's bothering me. And that's okay, because we need to take care of ourselves and our mental health during this time to be productive, to get the things done that we need to get done.
You bring up such a good point that that is such a barrier, are all of these external distractions, the news, societal pressure, social comparison. Like, wow, that really, as you said, that really resonated so hard with me. Yeah, that's certainly on the list for me.
Same.
So we're going to jump into some time management and talking about structuring your day. You know, we're talking about how to get over these barriers and make this successful for you. So in structuring your day, this is completely different than the way that you would structure your day regularly. That if you had a 9-to-5 job before, that was your day, and that was how you went about your day. And if you have some flexibility, you have this new outlet to change that, then that's great. If that's what you want to do, and you want to take on different times to do different things because that works for you, this is the perfect time to do that. And this is such a gift that you really do have this time now where you can do the things that you like at the times that work for you instead of what worked for somebody else. And you know, that doesn't work for everyone's jobs or everyone's school or anything like that, but it's really, now you may be able to be more flexible with it, which is something new for sure. And so being mindful of the times that work for you, and knowing if you are a morning person or you're a night owl, then doing the things that you like to do at those times are a little bit easier now than before.
Can I just add,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. I was sharing this earlier, but I've also been like as you're saying, like this time is kind of such an opportunity to kind of mold our schedule and what works for us. And as I shared earlier, the weather is such a big like factor of importance for me. And so I've even been structuring my day based around the weather. And so if it is a sunnier, nicer day, that I can space my day out so I can enjoy it more. So I really am trying to lean into like some of the autonomy I have to be able to like create more space in my day in a way that really works for me that I wouldn't necessarily have otherwise.
So true. Yeah, definitely. And I think too the way that I've done it is if let's say I was at work until 7 o'clock or something before because I had a late client, then I wouldn't be able to, but I had a break in between clients. Now I can literally get up from where I'm seeing clients and go into my kitchen, prepare a meal, eat that meal, and come back to work. And that's been something that's been really helpful for me in structuring my day, to be able to have this nice, home cooked meal and then head back into it has been really, really cool. Really nice. And sort of going off of that, we're thinking of structure and thinking about what works for us. And oftentimes when we make to-do lists, they're helpful and they can be, depending on if you like them or not. I like them and I like checking off boxes and crossing things off, but they're really nice, and sometimes they can be really long and sometimes they can be too much. And so restructuring our day and restructuring the way we look at our day can also be restructuring that list and how we make that list. And is it, instead of these to-dos, more so looking at the results that we want out of them and what we want to achieve. So sort of looking at the process of it and the roadmap of how to get to that destination rather than the million little things that have to get done. So using things like sort of like that one step at a time kind of thing, but more directed at those goals. And I know Amy has a cool analogy for it that I wanted to share.
Oh, do you want me to talk about that now?
Do I? Yeah, I do.
Well, I know like the next thing on your list is about prioritizing, and one of my favorite sayings, which I find to be so true, is that when everything's important, nothing's important, right? Like if we're focusing on a million things at once, that doesn't really get our attention. And I heard this analogy that I loved that I wanted to share with you all because it resonated. So imagine each morning, and you're a soccer player, and each morning you are on the soccer field, and you are allowed 10 kicks of a soccer ball per day. That's it. So on the one hand, you can line up 10 soccer balls in a row and give each of those soccer balls one little kick, and they can get kind of equal kicks across all 10. So that would be one way. Or another way is to just kind of choose one of those soccer balls and kick it 10 times. And imagine how much farther down the field that one ball would go if you directed all of your energy, all of your kicks to that one target, that you'd get so much more done, so much more accomplished, rather than if you split it across each of those opportunities. And so kind of using that mindset as we think about and tackle like what's on our to-do list, what's on our result list, what can we really dive into more fully, rather than like feeling like we're spread thin or spread out across all the things.
I love it. It's such a great visual for looking at how far you can really go by focusing on that one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. So shifting over to procrastination, I know Marianne shared a little bit about this before, but procrastination is definitely like something that I am working through almost on a daily basis, and it feels more challenging to work through now, especially because, like I said before, like time kind of feels endless, and so like we don't have that kind of scarcity feeling about time, because days sort of like melt together and all kind of feel the same. So it doesn't feel like, oh, I need to get this done by X time. And so I think that for me has been what's been like pulling me more toward procrastination recently. And I kind of think about procrastination in these two different ways, where it's kind of choosing what feels really good in the moment over what might feel good in the long run. So Marianne, to like reference your Netflix situation, like it would probably feel really, really good to sit and binge watch like the entire series of Little Fires Everywhere over going through my mountain of emails. Like, and so I might choose that. I might choose like getting sucked into that story rather than like going through everything that's in my inbox, even though I might know that like it's probably not going to take that long to get through my inbox, and I'm probably going to feel really good and accomplished once I do. And procrastination could also be really, really clever and be masked as more busy work. And so I, rather than, again, going through my mountain of emails, would rather like put things in the laundry or like empty the dishwasher, because I could still rationalize that I'm being productive, even though those things can really wait. Like those can wait till after work, or those can wait till tomorrow, where I really, really need to get through those emails now. And so I think because we, again, our environments are kind of colliding right now, because I literally can do the laundry or watch Netflix or empty the dishwasher all in the same place that I do my work, it becomes much more tempting to procrastinate in these ways. But the reality is, like, underlying our tendency to procrastinate is are some messages, are some thoughts or beliefs that we have about the task at hand. And so I ask you all to kind of think about, if your procrastination could talk, what would it say? And so we, amongst the three of us, had come up with some of our kind of underlying self-talk when it comes to approaching a daunting task, or a task that we just don't feel like doing. And those range from, this is too hard, to what if I fail, or there's too much going on, I can't keep up. So take a moment right now and really try to think about a recent task that you procrastinated on, or maybe something right now that's kind of looming, where your mind goes when you think about trying to accomplish that task or getting started on that task. And so now that you've got that in mind, it can be really helpful, because now we know what is kind of stopping us in our tracks, and that gives us so much more control and so much more ability to talk back to it. And so if our belief, if our procrastination is telling us this is too hard, we can remind ourselves that we've done hard things before. If procrastination is saying figuring this out is overwhelming, we can remind ourselves that we can just take one step at a time, really zoom out, take it one step at a time. If we're feeling like there's just too much going on that we can't keep up, we can remind ourselves that we're doing the best that we can. And so taking this perspective of, again, amplifying the volume of what our self-talk looks like gives us so much more ability to intervene and take charge and take control. And another analogy or image that I have learned that I wanted to share is this idea of pulling weeds and planting seeds. And so if we're to kind of imagine the task of like managing a garden, right? That what we really want is like beautiful, abundant flowers and growth. That's what we really, really want to see and want to experience. It's just beautiful. But one of the things about tending to a garden is that we have to pull weeds, and that can get really annoying. Who really likes to like kneel in the dirt and like go through the tedious task of taking all those things out? But the reality is they're sort of necessary. They make room for more growth. And so if we're to look at those tasks that we're maybe procrastinating, or they're the less exciting or less fulfilling things on our to-do list or on our like roadmap toward our result list, really try to think of them as that, as those weeds that we need to pull in order for us to create room for more abundance, for more growth. And so again, like we tend to procrastinate these things because we don't like, it kind of sucks. Like we don't really feel like doing it. So the sooner we can kind of pull at those weeds and even identify what they are, that would be a start to pulling at them, the more room we have to then plant seeds. And so planting seeds, right, in a garden is the action of, putting something in the ground to take root so that it can grow. And so planting seeds might not necessarily be even related to your day-to-day job, but planting seeds, it might be something like listening to a podcast or listening to a personal development audiobook. It might be connecting with a friend. Once we remove all those other like unsavory tasks, we make room for so much more, and that can lead to more growth and more ability to like live a fulfilling, abundant life. So I do really encourage you to try to use this in your day-to-day, or even at the end or beginning of a week as you think about what weeds you want to pull, what seeds you want to plant, so that you can approach your work life from a different lens.
So thinking about your environment and being at home now and working from home, how has distance or virtual work from home impacted your work habits and environment? Really though, like how have these things impacted you and how you work and where you work, and how has all of that changed? What worked before you were home, and does that work now? Maybe it doesn't. What have you changed to support yourself and your work the best that you can right now? How can you readjust those things so that you don't have to sit in how everything has changed and how terrible that is? Because not all of it does have to be so terrible. Some of those changes can be good, and we have some environment hacks that we've used that have been helpful for us, and we'll share those with you. But there are definitely things that you can look at in the environment that you are in now to make it more interesting for you or helpful for you, or whether that is through the different sounds that you hear, or the lighting that you have, or the images you see, the temperature of your space, what colors you see, what colors you're surrounded with, what colors you're wearing, the scents that are surrounding you. Some of these things we can't change. I have some loud footsteps sometimes above my head, and I can't change that because of where I live, and that's okay. Some of the sounds that I can change, I can put a loud fan on, or I can put some low music on to flush it out. As far as lighting goes, some areas are darker than others, and like Amy was saying, those rainier days are hard. So when it's not that a lovely sunny day like today, how can the space around me feel like it is? The images, do I have some people might have a view of a skyline that's gorgeous that they're not getting right now. What kind of images can you put in front of you that are going to make you either feel like you're there, or you can be somewhere else? Maybe that's a beautiful picture of a beach or something you want in front of you, or wherever you like to go. The temperature, if you're in a space where you can play with it, that's great. If you can't, is there a special blanket that you love to cuddle up with that you can actually use all day long, instead of being in your office where that's not available to you? So those are just some of the ones that I thought of, but I know that you two have done different things that you might want to share.
Yeah. Like you said with the pictures, like, you know, in my office at work, there's just certain things that I can't have in there. So I have, you know, pictures behind my screen actually that I'm looking at of that make me feel good, whether it's of people or places that just, you know, bring some joy when I look at them. I don't always get to light a candle or have a diffuser with me at work. So that's something that like I've been enjoying that I get to do, and it makes me feel good. It makes me feel calm during the day. I have my favorite blanket behind me because it gets a little chilly in here. I have a, you know, a fan that to kind of tune out the noise within the house. And you know, and sometimes sometimes I move my work area if I have to, you know, on a really nice day, or if I'm feeling like I need some fresh air, I kind of save the things that I have to do that don't require me to be in front of the camera to doing them outside, and if I can, and or making sure that like on a really hard day, maybe I build in a 10-minute break and go outside and walk, you know, down the street for a little bit and back, just because that helps me feel like I'm changing my scenery, I'm changing my environment, I'm walking around, you know, texting a friend or a colleague or a family member, like in on those little breaks, just to feel like I have some interaction during the day. You know, that's adult and makes me feel good. So things like that.
That is something I didn't think of, is that you can literally change your scenery throughout the day, which is something that a lot of people aren't able to do in a regular workplace. That you really want to go outside for 10 minutes, you can. You can eat your lunch outside. You can do all these things that maybe aren't the usual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My desk is on wheels, and so I've been like changing where it is in this one room throughout the week, or sometimes throughout the day, or even changing which chair I sit in, just to like feel like I think more in control of my environment or like my surroundings, and that's been helpful and like almost felt a little bit fun to kind of change those things up. But I have like positive messages on my desk that are encouraging, and so that's been helpful. And I think one of the things that I love about our community at Revive is like it is so big and tends to be like so positive and so collaborative, that one of the things I was initially really missing when we switched to kind of working from home is not having those interactions in between our sessions or eating lunch with people. And so I've, as Marianne said, like in between sessions, I'll reach out to some of our colleagues, or, you know, make sure to check in with people, or scheduling kind of a virtual like work time, just to like, can we do paperwork together? We'll just put our cameras on, and like I'll do work and you do work kind of thing, just so it kind of feels a little bit more familiar and comfortable, and again, like draws in the best parts of like the office setting in my home in the way that I can.
All right, so we're going to get into talking about stress. So obviously, as we've said, this isn't your ordinary spring into summer, or some of you, this isn't your ordinary end of your semester of school. So nothing about this is ordinary, and we want to use this as a way for you to reflect on how stressful you are in this moment. So thinking about that on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed are you about work, about life? And you can write that down. You can just take a mental note of that. What comes to mind when you think about stress? And how do you notice stress in your body and in your thoughts? So what do we do about all this stress? We notice it and acknowledge it like we were doing in that exercise. Pay attention to where in your body you experience stress. You know, is it actually that you have tense shoulders, or do you get a stomach ache, or does your heart race? Notice the thoughts you have related to your stress. Are they negative? Are you just down on yourself for thinking that you can be this stressed and you can't get out of it? Notice any triggers, people, environment, situations, etc., that commonly contribute to your stress. Who are you surrounding yourself by? Who are you not able to see right now because of this whole thing? Don't judge it. Stress is normal, natural. It's a feeling that we experience as human beings living in a relatively unpredictable world. And of course, this is super, super unpredictable what's happening right now. So you're not weak or less than or dramatic for thinking that any of these things could stress you out, or for getting stressed out at all. Be empowered to do something about it. Whether or not it feels like it in the moment, we do have control over our state, emotions, and thoughts. It's something really hard to think about in the moment, for sure, sometimes. So knowing that when you're not stressed can certainly help you in the moment when you do get stressed. So this is an exercise that we have to help with grounding, and grounding can certainly help us when we are stressed. Because when we're stressed, we're in our head a lot of the time, and we're thinking about all the things that we have to do, or we're just super overwhelmed and it's hard to stay calm. So groundings can help us from spinning and spiraling into the what ifs of the future. So a way to do this is to engage your 5 senses. You can think of 5 things that you see, 4 things that you feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste. So you can do that right now. And then we do have another exercise, and that's some paced breathing. So that's just another way to ground you, to help you stay calm. And it's this box breathing because for the first 4 seconds, you're going to breathe in, and we can, all 3 of us, we can do this right now. We can breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and you hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you can just keep doing this over and over again, just like that.
Okay, so self-care, and we know that self-care is everywhere. Everybody talks about self-care, and not to kind of fall into that category or be cliche, but self-care is literally taking care of yourself, and taking care of yourself is just so important during any time of stress. And on most days, we take care of others. Some of you are really probably thinking a lot about others and how they're doing and the people in your lives, and it's just as important to think about ourselves and take care of ourselves. What comes to mind when you think of self-care? And I know for some people, the typical things that come up could be like a face mask, or a manicure, or a bubble bath. And those things are, in fact, very helpful for some people, and do involve taking care of yourself. But there's a lot of other ways to take care of yourself at home, and whether it's just taking a few minutes to be in a silent room and kind of collect yourself, and do some box breathing, bringing yourself to the present moment by doing that, instead of giving your mind a little bit of a rest, instead of it going a million miles an hour and thinking of all of the things that you are on your mind, or that you have to do, or that you're worried about. Self-care, I know Amy says all the time, is like actually having her coffee in a mug in the morning and like sitting with that mug and just taking a couple minutes instead of having it in to-go cup and drinking, like running around, and then by the time she drinks it, it's cold. You know, for me, sometimes it is taking, like I think I said earlier, like, you know, maybe a hot shower, or just taking that little walk where and I don't bring my phone, where I just am by myself. I'm not worried about all the things going on around me. For me, self-care now sometimes is turning off the news, and not like filling my day with things that I know are going to stress me out. So, you know, we're really trying to take care of ourselves, our minds, our bodies, to preserve ourselves, to get through this time and to be there for us and to stay healthy, mentally and physically, but also for the people we love. So taking some time for you to think about what your current self-care practices are. And if you can't think of any, we can talk about, you know, what that could look like. So, you know, self-care is really important when in general, it is important and helps keep us healthy and helps keep us from getting so overwhelmed, you know, feeling anxious, feeling worried, feeling sad, feeling a ton of different things during this time is totally normal. Why wouldn't it be normal? This is stressful, and life is stressful. So that's why that taking care of ourselves, you know, for me, I notice, like, I can only explain it as like static when I start to get a little bit overwhelmed, that my mind starts to get staticky or jumbly, and I'm like, oh, that's my sign that like I've been going and I need to take a break. um, and sometimes when we're really heightened and nervous and worried, it's hard to think about what we can do, because we're actually, the parts of our brains that we're accessing at that moment are not the rational part of our brains that are taking some time to think things through and taking some time to think about what would be best for us. So what we always suggest, for me, I'm a big visual person, so making a plan while you are in a calm state, or when you have taken a couple of deep breaths or had some time to sit and really think, like, what do I want to do? What are the tools I want to access when I really need to take a break, or when I'm really feeling too overwhelmed and I can't get back on track? And by making a plan, there's something accessible for you to take out and look at, and use when you just can't access those things for yourself as quickly in that moment as you would like to. So if you were to go over to our next slide, we kind of have this little printout for you, where you, of all the aspects that you can, of our bodies and our minds, that you can brainstorm and think about, you know, what you need to be doing when you need to take a little bit of a break, or when things are getting too tough or too overwhelming, or you don't know where to begin. So physically, things are like, you know, doing some stretching, taking a walk, you know, jumping up and down, doing an at-home workout, or just like like I said, some stretching, moving around your house, you know, walking up and down the stairs for a couple of whatever you can do to just get your physical part of yourself moving and get some energy out, can actually help slow you down a little bit and access a more logical part of your brain. The mental piece would be that static I was talking about before, that jumbling. How do you take care of that? So you can do some reading to turn off, or you know, like I said, build a break in your day, take some time off of your phone. That can really flood us, even though it can be calming sometimes, it can also be really flooding with a lot of information. So like, give your mind a little bit of a break from that. Vent to a friend, call them up, talk about what it is that you have on your mind, or meditate, you know, or do some breathing, things to just take care of your mind and slow it down. The emotional part could be, you know, taking care of the feelings that you're having. So getting those out, journaling, practicing some self-compassion, noticing what your mind is saying, or your feelings are saying to yourself, and and access something that is a little nicer, a little bit more compassionate, knowing that, you know, you're doing the best that you can. Therapy is a great way to talk about your feelings, to process your feelings. We at Revive are offering virtual sessions, but, you know, virtual sessions are out there right now, and it's so important. If you have the access to it, it's a great way to help you, you know, process whatever is going on for you. Supportive people in your life, what I feel out there are the people that I know I can turn to when I'm stressed, whether it's a text or a phone call. And then lastly is what you hope to accomplish throughout this, you know, the little to-dos or the little goals you want to achieve. It doesn't have to be anything big, but those small goals, whether it's like finish reading all of my emails, or, you know, get some of my house tasks done that I needed to get done, or finish the project by this date. But what you hope to accomplish by getting yourself in a calmer and more relaxed state by taking care of yourself.
So before we go into our kind of final piece, we encourage you to leave us questions, ask questions in the comments, or if you're on with us in the chat box, and we'll use those questions not only to answer them outside of this, but also to help us develop other content for you, other webinars. Let us know what you want to know more about, or learn more about, or hear more about. We want to hear from you.
Okay, so we have a little closing meditation, a closing guided meditation, just to end this off on, you know, hopefully a relaxed piece. And this is something you can go back to and listen to. But if you can and are open, and we welcome you to participate in it right now, just getting yourself in as comfortable a position as you can, whether that's seated or laying down with your legs crossed, and just anything, you know, any type of position where you feel like you can relax and let go. And we're going to start this by focusing on our breath, by taking a deep breath in through the nose, pausing, and breathing out through your mouth. Again, breathing in through the nose, pausing, and out through your mouth. We're just going to repeat this rhythm of breath a few more times. So breathing in, and as we continue this rhythm of breath, I want you to check in with your body. You know, notice what you're feeling in your face and in your chest, what you're feeling in your belly, your arms, your legs. And as you continue breathing, breathe into any discomfort or tension you might be feeling in your body, and breathe out those tense feelings. Just continuing to breathe in and out this way a few more times. And now I want you to check in with your feelings. What may you be feeling right now? Whether it's angst or sadness or anger or fear. Notice these feelings and where you're feeling them. Do you feel them in your face or in your chest or in your belly or in your back? And then just breathe into these feelings and where you feel them, and breathe out. Again, breathing into them and breathing out. Just noticing that they're there, accepting them for what they are, not judging them, just acknowledging them. Breathe in and out, knowing that you have these feelings and in the moment you're okay. How can you be compassionate toward these feelings and toward yourself? How can you be patient with your feelings? Just continue breathing in and out, accepting just being at this very moment. And as we hold on to just being in this moment and accepting ourselves without judgment, let's breathe in gratitude and breathe out sorrow. Breathe in peace and breathe out turmoil. Breathe in love and breathe out hate. Breathe in confidence and breathe out insecurity. Breathe in hope and breathe out doubt. Breathe in courage and breathe out worry. Breathe in faith and breathe out fear. And lastly, breathing in whatever it is you may need right now and breathing out whatever is weighing you down. Continue breathing in and out a few more times. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you for that. That was really needed.
Great.
I hope you all got something that you felt like you were needing today. We, again, are so appreciative that you were here with us and that you showed up for yourself today. As I said earlier, if you have questions or if there's more that you're wanting to see from us or suggestions you have about what might be useful to you during this time or any time, please reach out to us. Our information is here and I'll also post it in the comments section. But we look forward to connecting with you soon. Stay well, everyone, and take good care. Bye.
Bye.